Hi, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Fletcher. I thought I'd show you today how you can read some books on your own on BCPS1. This is particularly for third, fourth, fifth graders, but anybody can read it or anybody can have a grown-up in their house read it to them. The first thing you'll do is go to bcps1.org and then you'll log into BCPS1 just like you do in school with your username and password. Once you've done that, you'll click on digital content. And this time we're going to go down to the bottom to Tumble Book Library. Now I know a lot of you like to read Tumble books and you do the storybooks and the read-alongs, but today we're going to go to the ebooks. These are books that you read yourself, just as if you would pick up a book off of the shelf in the library and start reading it. And today we're going to look at novels. I know a lot of fourth graders have been studying Kate DiCamillo, and in our library, Flora and Ulysses is very popular. That happens to be one of her novels that does have pictures in it. And then Edward Tulane is very popular. Lots of kids want that. So if you've never had a chance to check that out because it's always been off of the shelf, here's your chance to read it. Today, we're going to look at a classic of hers called Because of Winn Dixie. So I'm going to click on Because of Winn Dixie. And when you click on a book, it'll give you a summary of what the book is. And this is just like in the library when we open the book and read what's inside of that cover. This is what it would say. And then you have a lot of options. You read online, you can add it to your favorites, take a quiz, which is a good thing to do for yourself to know how well you're understanding the book, or do a book report. So today we're going to click on Because of Winn Dixie, and we're going to read the first chapter. That way you'll know if this is a book that you might like or that you would like a grown-up to read a chapter every night with you. So let's begin. Because of Winn Dixie, Chapter 1. My name is India Opal Bologna, and last summer my daddy, the preacher, sent me to the store for a box of macaroni and cheese, some white rice, and 2 tomatoes, and I came back with a dog. This is what happened. I walked into the produce section of the Winn Dixie grocery store to pick out my 2 tomatoes, and I almost bumped right into the store manager. He was standing there all red-faced, screaming and waving his arms around. "Who let a dog in here?" he kept shouting. "Who let a dirty dog in here?" At first, I didn't see a dog. There were just a lot of vegetables rolling around on the floor, tomatoes and onions and green peppers. And there was what seemed like a whole army of Winn Dixie employees running around waving their arms just the same way the store manager was waving his. Can you visualize that chaos in your mind? And then the dog came running around the corner. He was a big dog and ugly, and he looked like he was having a real good time. His tongue was hanging out and he was wagging his tail. He skidded to a stop and smiled right at me. I had never before in my life seen a dog smile, but that is what he did. He pulled back his lips and showed me all his teeth. Then he wagged his tail so hard that he knocked some oranges off a display, and they went rolling everywhere, mixing in with the tomatoes and onions and green peppers. The manager screamed, "Somebody grab that dog!" The dog went running over to the manager, wagging his tail and smiling. He stood up on his hind legs. You could tell that all he wanted to do was get face to face with the manager and thank him for the good time he was having in the produce department. But somehow he ended up knocking the manager over. And the manager must have been having a bad day, because lying there on the floor, right in front of everybody, he started to cry. The dog leaned over him real concerned and licked his face. "Please," said the manager, "somebody call the pound." "Wait a minute," I hollered. "That's my dog. Don't call the pound." All the Winn Dixie employees turned around and looked at me, and I knew I had done something big, and maybe stupid too. But I couldn't help it. I couldn't let that dog go to the pound. "Here, boy," I said. The dog stopped licking the manager's face and put his ears up in the air and looked at me like he was trying to remember where he knew me from. "Here, boy," I said again. And then I figured that the dog was probably just like everybody else in the world, that he would want to get called by a name. Only I didn't know what his name was. So I just said the first thing that came into my head. I said, "Here, Winn Dixie." And that dog came trotting over to me just like he had been doing it his whole life. The manager sat up and gave me a hard stare, like maybe I was making fun of him. "It's his name," I said. "Honest." The manager said, "Don't you know not to bring a dog into a grocery store?" "Yes, sir," I told him. "He got in by mistake. I'm sorry. It won't happen again." "Come on, Winn Dixie," I said to the dog. I started walking, and he followed along behind me as I went out of the produce department and down the cereal aisle and past all the cashiers and out the door. Once we were safe outside, I checked him over real careful, and he didn't look that good. He was big, but skinny. You could see his ribs. And there were bald patches all over him, places where he didn't have any fur at all. Mostly, he looked like a big piece of old brown carpet that had been left out in the rain. Are you seeing that in your brain? "You're a mess," I told him. "I bet you don't belong to anybody." He smiled at me. He did that thing again where he pulled back his lips and showed me his teeth. He smiled so big that it made him sneeze. It was like he was saying, "I know I'm a mess. Isn't it funny?" It's hard not to immediately fall in love with a dog who has a good sense of humor. "Come on," I told him. "Let's see what the preacher has to say about you." And the two of us, me and Winn Dixie, started walking home. I'm going to stop the story there, but maybe you could make predictions. What's going to happen when she gets home to her dad, the preacher? What's he going to say about the dog? Is he going to let her keep the dog? Is he going to call the pound? I hope you enjoyed the first chapter of Because of Winn Dixie. I hope you'll want to read the next chapter. Remember, log on to BCPS1, digital content, Tumble Books, and the book is an ebook called Because of Winn Dixie. Stay well, boys and girls, and be kind to each other. I'll see you soon.